This past Southern Coaster trip in the beginning of April, I got the chance to visit Carowinds for the first time. I was mostly excited for Fury, but little did I know that a much stronger and extremely underrated surprise was lurking in the back of the park. Quite literally, too. Yes, that's right, you saw the title. I firmly believe the Copperhead Strike is a better and more complete ride than Fury 325. Not saying Fury 325 is a bad ride by any means, but I prefer Copperhead to Fury, mainly because I just feel like it's a more complete ride experience, and I find myself enjoying and having a lot more fun with the elements on Copperhead than Fury. In this video, I'm going to discuss why Copperhead Strike is the best ride at Carowinds, and why it is one of the most, if not the most, criminally underrated coasters in the coaster community. This may very well be one of the hottest takes relating to coasters you've seen on YouTube, but hey, I have absolutely no fear about putting this out there and being honest about my opinions relating to coasters. I genuinely carry these controversial opinions, and have no intention of seeking attention. I truly believe Copperhead is better than Fury. Here's why. The first coaster I rode at the park was Fury 325. I had my expectations low for it, and I kind of knew I would find it overrated, especially since I find a lot of B&Ms overrated and I had a similar experience with Orion. After getting 2 rides in a row with the fast lane, I concluded that I did, in fact, find it overrated, and was still disappointed even though I set myself up to be disappointed. And with coasters, it's usually the other way around for me. The more I hype up a coaster, the more disappointed I will be after riding it, and if I set myself up with low expectations, I will often be pleasantly surprised by the ride. This was not the case with Fury. There is nothing bad or painful on this coaster, but I just don't see why it gets all the praise that it does. The drop is really just the same as Orion. Despite being taller, I didn't feel much of a difference, although it is one of my favorite parts of the ride. You get strong sustained flow to airtime the entire way down, but I didn't feel anything stand out or unique about the drop besides the flow to airtime. The next overbank has some decent laterals, and same with the next turn, and the treble clef surprised me, delivering flow to airtime and laterals simultaneously. The 3 camelbacks are definitely the strongest airtime moments I've felt on a B&M, delivering glorious sustained flojector airtime, and in the front, the airtime is actually ejector. There are some dead spots on the ride, with that turn after the treble clef, and slow helix before the last 2 camelbacks. The speed aspect is fun, but there's nothing that stands out in an elite way compared to most highly acclaimed coasters. It's still my favorite B&M, but it doesn't hold up compared to a lot of Intamins and RMCs in my top 10. Copperhead Strike, on the other hand, is criminally underrated in the coaster community, and absolutely surprised me with how much power and variety the elements have. When I hear enthusiasts talk about Copperhead Strike, the only thing I hear about the ride is how the launches are weak. And yes, that's the one thing I agree with. The launches do absolutely nothing, and are one of the, if not the weakest parts of the ride. But why this coaster is so underrated has nothing to do with the launches. It has to do with everything else, but the launches. When I went to Carowinds while it was pouring rain most of the day, Fury and Intimidator were down for a lot of the time. However, I got to Marathon Copperhead over 30 times, and stayed in my seat almost every time since the park was dead, and there was usually nobody in the station. And yes, it ran regardless of how much it was pouring. And this was on spring break. The ride first starts with a slow motion barrel roll out of the station, and I love the sensation of being slowly lifted out of my seat into glorious hang time in the last several seconds. And it gives me the sensation that all the blood is rushing down towards my head, and I definitely enjoy it. The ride then takes a complete stop at the launch track while playing an advanced show scene I wouldn't really expect from a company like Cedar Fair. The theming is above average for the company. Then comes the first launch. I admit, the launch itself does absolutely nothing, and all you feel is a slight push at the beginning, but the only point of the launch is to get you up to speed. As the train ascends into the loop, you get slammed with strong positive Gs on the way up, and then once you reach the top of the inversion, you get amazing sustained hang time. There are also some more positive Gs on the valley after the loop, and then comes one of the most surprising moments of the ride, the camelback. In the front row, you get abruptly ejected out of your seat at the top of the camelback, and that is some strong RMC level ejector you get there. I would say it's almost on par with that step up into the top hat on Icebreaker. It is that good. In the back, you still get ejected, but it's not as violent and it's a bit more sustained, and the sustained airtime in the back actually leads to a stomach dropping feeling. The next element is quite disappointing. The corkscrew looks like it'll give some good hang time, but instead it only gives you a bit of laterals. I'm not gonna let that ruin the ride for me. You then ascend a turn with decent positive Gs, followed by another surprise ejector airtime moment. This airtime moment is sharper in nature than the first one. The way this hill is profiled results in a weird sensation of being abruptly ejected out of your seat and lurched forward simultaneously. This airtime pop is slightly stronger in the back, since the back of the train goes into it with more speed. The next launch is also weak, and doesn't serve a purpose when it comes to the launch, besides getting the train back to speed. The bunny hill during the launch doesn't give as much ejector as it may look. It results in a lifter sensation in the front. It's very subtle floater, but I would say your butt leaves the seat only for about 1 second, and you only lift about 2 inches. Not a lot. But what comes next in this coaster is what makes it the best coaster at Carowinds. The step up into the cutback delivers subtle floater airtime in all rows, and the cutback shocked me with its power. In the back, you get typical sustained floater hang time, but in the front, you get the sensation that I call ejector hang time. As the train goes into the cutback, you get absolutely slammed against your lap bar while being thrown upside down, and the hang time lasts for a good 3 to 4 seconds. The descent from the cutback builds up surprising speeds for its type of element, and the bank turn that follows delivers a great combination of positive Gs and subtle laterals. The vertical loop gives the same sensation as the first one, except for the fact that the hang time just lasts a bit shorter. The next element of the ride is my absolute favorite. It's a combination between a stangle dive and an Immelman, and it hits hard. As the front row crests the peak of this element, you get by far the strongest ejector on the ride, and this is by far one of the top 5 ejector airtime moments I have ever experienced. You get slammed out of your seat against the lap bar, and while you are already out of your seat, you get a strong dose of laterals at the same time. I have never experienced an element or sensation this unique. In the back row, this element is quite disappointing, delivering floater airtime on the apex, and then weaker laterals on the descent. The next element was also surprising. The cutback that follows gives strong and whippy laterals that slam you to the side of the train. The laterals throw your body to the right, and then throws your body the opposite direction immediately. This moment still got me every time, regardless of how much I rode it. The next element is criticized for being a dead spot, but I find that the turns that follow deliver some underrated positive Gs. The element that follows is another ejector airtime moment similar to the one before the launch, lurching you forward and out of your seat simultaneously. It's also a lot stronger in the back, and shares equal power to the first one. You then hit the brakes and your wild multi-launch experience is over. Something else I forgot to mention about this coaster is that it does have a slight rattle. Unlike Millennium Force and Sandy's Blasting Bronco, this is the type of rattle that improves the ride experience, makes it feel more wild, and gives it some more texture. The rattling makes the experience feel more out of control, and that's why I tend to prefer rides that are on the rougher side, just not insanely rough to the point that it takes your organs apart. After riding this around 30 times, I can confidently say that despite the duds here and there on some elements, this coaster is by far one of my favorite multi-launches I have ever experienced, and it undoubtedly lands a spot in my top 15 coasters I've ridden in total. I know this is a hot take, but after all, no enthusiast shares the same opinion. Also, I'm the type of person that is not afraid to have opinions that deviate from the common norm. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and I'm curious to hear all your opinions about my takes in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you all next time.